Hello, everyone. Welcome to our session for the Mainframe Open Education Student User Group. We thank you for joining us yet again. Unfortunately, today we won't be having any guest speakers. It will just be us. And I'm going to take you through our Gitbook. For the Mainframe Open Education project, we have a Gitbook platform hosted on the web that we constantly update and review to provide foundational mainframe educational content to those who are new to the mainframe. So we have a few topics. You can learn about what is a mainframe today, and if you would like to dive into the technical skills, you'd go through the foundational technology, and we have sub-chapters there that you can use to learn the basics of the mainframe. Then you can also learn about the roles that you can get into if you are interested in taking up a mainframe career. They're not all technical. We have some like technical sales and brand sales that people who are not like really technical can try and learn about. And then we also dive deep into those roles. You can be able to see which organization, based on their size and the way that their structures, you'd like to work for. And also we have career path opportunities and mainframe events that are coming up. We'll be having the Z-Day next month. So you can find out more about it once we have updated, and also the mainframe technical exchange from both Broadcom and IBM. So if you'd also like to contribute, you can go to our backlog topics to see what we have in the backlog that you'd like to dive deep into and write about to add to our Gitbook. Yeah, that's a brief description of our Gitbook, and we'd like to have more people contribute and also share on social media platforms about this great project that we're trying to develop.
Tiso, do you want me to move into a specific chapter?
Yes. The previous week, we added more content to the foundational technology chapter that would be adding onto the session we had the previous month. I remember last month we showed the attendees this chapter and it didn't have any content. So now we do have more content, especially in the sub-chapter TSOE, ISPF, and Unix system services, interactive facilities for ZOS. So I don't know if we could start with the brief introduction to ZOS first, then we can then move on to the latest changes that we made. So in our chapter brief introduction to ZOS, you can have like, we have YouTube videos that you can watch, from subject matter experts in this field. We have, we also have the different blogs that you can use to learn about the mainframe, and also a link to a series of red books recorded by IBM that most students use to learn about the foundational mainframe skills.
Move on to the next subchapter.
Yeah, off to the next chapter. We have a brief description about how to interact with ZOS, as we have learned the previous week that there are many ways to interact with ZOS. ZOS would be the operating system that is widely used on the mainframe. So at this stage, we have many ways of interacting with the mainframe. But for our Gitbook, we focus mostly on the traditional ways, the ones that most people are familiar with. And you get your senior mainframers in your different organizations using. So I found that, even though it's really cool to learn the new tools, in terms of skills transfer, the more experienced mainframers tend to use the older tools. So if you are to join an organization, it's highly unlikely that you'll start off with the new tools. So it's very important that you learn tools like the TN3270 software emulator and how to use it. So from the 3270 Terminator emulator, it allows you to connect to time sharing options extensions, TSOE, of which will allow you to log in into the mainframe. So TSOE is a command line interface that allows a lot of users to interact with the mainframe remotely. So it's more like your organization will configure the number of users that are allowed to use the mainframe. It's usually a large number, as you can imagine how big the mainframe is and the number of people who need access to, especially on the back end, those who are working on it. Obviously, like a mainframe is used by a large number of people from even outside the organization. We have our guest speaker joining us, Kolawole. I'll just touch up on this quickly so that we can finish quickly and give him a chance. So from there, we have from the TSOE, you'll get access to ISPF, of which is like a menu-driven interface for the mainframe. It allows you to interact with different components of the mainframe, including the ISPF editor, SDSF. You get the opportunity to access the external security managers like RegF, and also your ISPF editor will allow you to create your data sets and edit your JCL, create new files. I believe since Kolawole is a more technical person, he's gonna touch on this a lot more. I've had him in our prep sessions that he's really familiar with these tools, and he's one of the people that we can learn a lot from. Ninchi, I'll give you this opportunity to introduce Kolawole, and we can carry on with our session.
Later. Alrighty. Thank you, Tiso. Hello, everybody. Very welcome for you to join us today. I don't know if we made this announcement already, but the session is in recording, and the recording will be uploaded to YouTube Mainframe Open Education student user group channel. So you are more than welcome to follow us there. We have our previous speakers and their session recorded. You are welcome to reference to that. So today, our session we're very honored to have Kolawole joining our session today. So Kolawole is a full stack developer and a mainframe engineer. So he has very experienced background in sales, marketing, customer service, and then you will hear the story from himself. Due to the need of the job, he actually made the pivot into the mainframe career. So it's fair to say that he is a very dedicated learner and a very somebody very dedicated in his job to to make the best of what's needed for his position. So today we're very honored to have him with us to share with us his journey and his experience of how he learned from zero to where he is now as a mainframe engineer. So with that, Kolawole, are you ready? Are we are we ready to go ahead and share with everybody your story?
Yeah, I'm ready. Thank you so much.
Alrighty, everybody. So in our attendees, if you have any questions, feel free to leave your question in the Q&A box, or you can also unmute yourself and ask a question to Kolawole himself. So for today, we're going to follow this this question line here for you to see what are those questions. So we will be asking Kolawole, and I will be the one asking those questions. So without further ado, let's get started. So, Kolawole, how did you get interested in the technical field? Let's start slow, and then maybe you can tell people a little bit what was your previous job duty or your position, and what got you interested into the tech field.
Yeah, thank you so much. Basically, what got me interested into the tech field was the fact that when I came in here to Canada, I found it very challenging to break into what actually I wanted to do. But in my quest for wanting to learn new things, I did some upskilling course with Empower. From there, I got interested in tech. I see that it's a field where everything is changing. It's a changing world. You have to be innovative, and I see that resonates with myself, my being. So I felt it was going to be a good opportunity for me to just do what I like to do, like solving problems. Because from my previous experiences, from where I've worked before, I've had the opportunity to solve customers' issues, like complex issues. When I say issues, I mean complex ones. So I feel it's similar in tech, that where you just have to keep thinking on how you want to improve things, how you want to do things. And so thereafter, I found an opportunity, and there's power in networking, right? Just like this open education stuff, you never can know where you get the right information that it's going to pivot you to know your next stage. So I networked, joined the Empower, the Black people in tech, and from there I got the opportunity to do a boot camp, which is a full stack engineer boot camp. And so that's where it all started from. My willingness and the grit to just learn new things, and I want to be better off.
That's already very inspiring. You want to be the better version of yourself and to pursue something new for yourself. Okay, then my next question is, what was the drive that brought you into the mainframe world? You might already mentioned a little bit, but could you make it more clear for us, why mainframe specific?
Uh, for me, when I got deployed to TD, I was deployed to like mainframe. Like I was like, oh, what's this? It's just a black and white screen. Initially, I felt, is this really for me? But at some point when I was like, oh, this is more like I'm speaking English language and it's a high level language. I felt it's something unique. It's something you just have to know about. I've done Java before. I had some experience in Java, so I feel, oh, this is so different. And even with the Java experience, it's something I can still do. So I didn't back down. I was just like I said initially, I always love to learn new things though, but this is a different one. It's a closed system. It's a resource you can always get there. It's something that is not taught in a college. So at some point I had to do some research myself personally, and I realized the 500 Fortune companies, they are still using mainframe. So for them to be using it even up to now, it shows the reliability and all of those that it entails. So I got interested in that. So I had to just take it with all my heart and with the strength I have that I can do this.
That's really awesome. Sounds like you're impressed of the standing of mainframe in the world economy, and that's one of the drives that got you into this field, right? Okay, then I guess you also answered my next question, which I want to know the research you did to convince yourself that mainframe is a field to stay, and sounds like the importance of itself and the uniqueness of itself is already sufficient to convince you this is a good field. So how I guess I asked this too. So how did you learn your mainframe skills on the job and in your team? If you can share that with us as well.
I mean, there's one thing I would want to advise everyone, and it's the importance of collaborating. Uh, we I learned my mainframe with it's fine. I did some self-reading. I wouldn't want to be boastful about that. I had so many badges, but you have to drive yourself to learn. But you have to collaborate with others too. You have to talk to people. There are so many people that are experienced on the job, and luckily I have so many good hands around me. I have someone who was on our team then that has been in the mainframe environment for more than 35 years. So I tapped into that opportunity. Like whenever I have his one call away, I just call Brad. Are you available? He said, "Oh, call me in the next so hour. We fix the time, and it's just gonna put me through." And if I'm having issues with the jobs pool, he checks the jobs pool. We try to read the errors together and try to resolve it. So basically, you just have to collaborate with your teams, and you should be willing on your own part to read about stuff, like have the basic understanding of it. And for me on the job, we had our test sets and all of those that we could use to do some practices on the pad. So it actually helped what I've been reading on the mainframe site, which is the Broadcom site, and what I'm actually trying to do and get. So that way we had the hands-on experience trying to solve things and trying to see how we're going to go about it.
Just just when you were sharing us how you learned from your team member and the collaboration, you also mentioned there are many badges that could learn, and that's actually how we originally found you in LinkedIn. Could you also share with us what drives you to learn or to get all these badges and how these badges help you learning?
You know, the drive there is like for me, I want to learn. And in trying to do that, I had been given the resources. Like this is this, and I'm not even paying for it. So where I came from, you have to pay for this personally yourself. Now someone is giving me the knowledge for free to tap into it. So it's up to me to just take hold of it and make the best use of it personally. That's the way I feel about it. So I started with the just the fundamentals on all of those. Then eventually I collaborate. At some point, we collaborated together, me and some of my team members. We try to solve issues together, and it's really helped our learning and the understanding of it. And at some point, when we were trying to read on the Broadcom, we're trying to see the sorts and all of those some tools and trying to see the practical applications of it. Since we have the lab itself, like the environment, the test set environment itself within our reach, all we do is just try to, we had coding challenges too. We give ourselves coding challenge that we'll try to use this particular sort to try to use this particular utility and see how you're going to go about it. Like you want to read from a VSAM file, from a DB table, and all of those, and you want to write out some reports. Those things you've been reading, just try to make use of it. And at some point, we had to do things like, binding packages together and trying to get all of those stuff. So that those are the things that actually we put into practice.
That's really awesome. Thank you. Um, you also, I mean, since you also mentioned there are a lot of people helping you, your colleagues, and I also remember when we are preparing for this session, you specifically mentioned the mentoring experience. Could you also briefly share with us how the mentoring experience looked like for you?
Well, for me, it was a great one. Like I mentioned to you, that we had someone on our team then that had about like not on our team, but he's there to guide us whenever we had issues. He has more than 35 years of experience in mainframe and all of those. For me, the mentoring was a great opportunity for me to be open-minded and learn. You don't assume you know everything. And the engineering world is a place where we're here to solve issues. We're here to just make the things better. And like we would always say, if it doesn't break, don't fix it. But we are trying to improve things as well. So our mentor was always there, but on your own part too, while you have the mentor, you need to work on yourself too. There are things I wouldn't want to go to him and ask him about because to me personally, it would sound like, am I really doing stuff on my own part to improve myself? What am I doing myself to understand what we're trying to achieve? So I try to ask the right questions and not bug him with unnecessary questions. And whenever I needed help, he would always be there because he knows for me to have asked for help, then I've done some great stuff for myself, within myself rather.
So when you said, so how did you get to know your mentor? The mentor is not from your work, is it?
Yeah, I have about two from my work. I have one from outside of work. There are some projects that we work on that I wouldn't want to talk about outside of the team and outside of the bank itself because they are NDA projects. We had some non-disclosure agreement and all of those. So those ones I try to talk to people within um, the organization. But outside the organization, I had one of my instructors then. He was the one that gave me some resources even before, while I knew I was going to be doing mainframe. He gave me some resources to read about how it works. He tried to explain to me, and whenever I needed help with something that I needed to clarify some things, I'll get in touch with him as well. So mentoring is a very key thing in the engineering world. What I would always say is what you're trying to do now, definitely someone must have done it before. Even if someone has not done it before, the person will share with you vital information that is going to be helpful to you in trying to solve this situation, to solve the problem.
Thanks for sharing. Yeah, sounds like your mentor in and beyond the work really helped with your learning and growing journey. Okay, and then since we already talked about um, how you get into the field and also in general how you learn the skills, so could you also share a little bit with us more in details, like how do you build your mainframe skills? Where did you start it? And then where you are and where do you see you need to further advance your skill?
Well, I started from, when I say from the scratch, like from zero knowledge about mainframe. And to some extent now, I could say I have built some confidence. Like it's important to build the confidence and you have that zeal, that grit that you can do it. It has to start from you yourself first. Uh, if I get the question right, what do I want to do or how do I build? What's the question? Like the entire questions. What was it like though? Can you repeat the question again?
Sure. My question is how, basically where you started. Basically, you share with us starting from scratch. So, what are the resources you used? What did you learn first? What are you currently learning? And in which area you think you can further improve your mainframe skills?
Basically, like I mentioned earlier, I started from zero, and I feel IBM has one of the best tools. Like the Broadcom, it's an essential place for you to have a general knowledge of about what you're doing. And based on what I'm doing now, I want to broaden my skill on the analytical part of it. Like I dive into jobs like seriously, production jobs. We want to enhance it such that it doesn't bend and all of those. So for me personally, I want to be very good with my analytical skills. Trying to understand, at some point you see a program calling so many other programs and a module calling some sub modules. I and luckily enough, now Mainframe has brought out some other analytical tools, such as the ADDI, where you could possibly see some dead code. So you having that understanding that analytical skills, it's going to help a lot, and that's for me personally, and it's going to save a lot of time. Like majority of what we do in the world now, we are not entirely, except if there are new projects, we are not entirely writing new codes afresh, but we're trying to enhance the processes and all of those. So you having it, for me, having that deep understanding of analyzing, it's very, very important to me. And I've been trying to do that on the job. Like you asked that, how do I want to improve on that? I've been doing that on the job. In fact, there's a project I'm working on now. I even had to use the postman because I want to do some kind of financial activity retrieval. So I had to use the postman with the API, mainframes interfere with the API and all of those. So I want to do some analysis on that. So that way, I feel it's going to give me more confidence and hopefully I personally I would want find it's always good you collaborate, but personally I always feel I should at some point I should be confident enough to make some decision and stand alone. So and you don't stop learning. Like now I still have some courses that I registered for on the Broadcom too that I'm looking on the side. Like I keep learning and that's it. And in the next few weeks, I'm still going to download my VS Code, like on mainframe. So I want to do all of those. So that's the thing. You just have to keep learning. And again, I have signed up with some newsletter with Broadcom too. When there's anything new that comes up, I want to know what it is. I might not be interested in it, but I just want to have an understanding that this thing is up. Does it resonate with what I want to do? So I make that decision. If it's something I'm interested in, I'll dive deeper into it. But at least with the newsletter, I knew there's something coming up. There's something new coming up. So I have an idea, even if I'm not interested in it. So that way, it's going to broaden your knowledge of what you're doing and the direction you want to move.
That's so well said. Thank you. So you mentioned there are different learning resources you've been leveraging. Specifically, I think you mentioned Broadcom learning resources and also IBM. Is there anything still in your treasure box you would like to share with everybody else? Anything else you would learn from any other platforms or resources you've been leveraging?
On a general note, sometimes Google is a friend, you know?
Yeah.
I use that a lot. Like when I see some errors, the first thing I do is just to try and just copy and paste. It gives me an overall idea. Eventually, it might not be it, but it gives me an overall idea. And that was why I mentioned initially about the analytical skills and trying to
Mm,
dive into jobs and code, try to understand the codes. Sometimes there are some hard-coded errors in the program itself.
mm,
So it might not really relate with what Google has suggested for you. So that's why it's very, very important for me personally, to improve on that analytical skills and try to dive into jobs,
mhm,
the jobs pool, uh, just dive into the codes, understand, what these errors are saying. So it's very, very important for me. But
mm.
honestly, Google is your friend.
Yeah. Absolutely. I imagine you probably also leverage AI tools to check up on the codes and try to explain
No,
that.
I wouldn't want to do that because of
Oh,
the mainframe stuff. Yeah, mainframe is kind of, if it were to be Java, C++, you can easily rely on the AI tools, but
mm,
you can't just be telling mainframe to get you the identification, environment, division, and all of those, and trying to write out the working storage for you. You have to decide if it's level 5 or level 10 you want to put it in, and the architects and all of those, they before you make changes to code, they already tell you this is the way it should be. So to me, I don't usually leverage on the AI tools for mainframe. Basically, I don't usually want to do that. I try to have the understanding because what I see in it is it's just like I mentioned earlier, it's just like the English language we're speaking. Basically, it's simple to the eye, but having that understanding, and you have to grow your knowledge of it, like by trying to understand rather than relying on the AI. That's the way me I feel personally. The AI thing might work for some other people. Someone else might like it, but for me, I just feel let me dive into it. Let me take my time to understand it. Then next time I'm gonna do better.
Yeah, I think thank you for sharing. I think you just give us another good reason why mainframe is a field to work for, because it's not replaceable by AI by any means. Okay. Um, Okay, I have last two more questions for you. So since you experienced this journey, like you changed basically your career from a different role to a mainframe engineer, what would you say to those people who are also considering making the same transition?
Honestly, I would just say to them, just take it. Your job is secured, number one, and you'll be an hot cake out there. By the time you could learn and stand on your own, you definitely you're going to get a place. Not just a place, you're going to be comfortable and happy with what you're doing. When you get to see the back end and you see the way how reliable mainframe is and what it does, I'm sure you would love it. That's the thing about it. Don't be discouraged with a black and white screen. Now mainframe Broadcom is bringing out the VS Code that will look more like the Java we're writing, right? And we already have the IBM Z too. So leverage on those stuff. If you feel the black and white screen is kind of too archaic for you, just go on your IBM Zoo. It's going to point to errors to you too, and you'll be able to make the necessary changes whenever they need be. For anyone who is considering transition into mainframe, just embrace it, honestly, because we have different places you can work in. You have the batch execution team where they condition the data and all of those for you to run your jobs. You have the production people who does the production stuff and all of those, and you have those who are the back end writing code, trying to improve things, making different analysis. So just embrace it, honestly. I am sure you would love it because having an understanding of mainframe, you can write any other language. But knowing Java, it wouldn't guarantee that you would know mainframe. And this thing is now being taught in 90% of the colleges, except maybe from back home, maybe in India, Nigeria, maybe they will teach you COBOL. But in all of the colleges I've seen around here, you will hardly see anyone talk about COBOL. So it's a very unique thing that I would always advise anyone. The decision is up to you, right? But I would definitely advise you to just embrace it, honestly.
Thank you. I hope our audience feel the same encouragement as I'm being I'm being given here. So thank you for sharing that. And then, do you have any do's or don'ts for people who are new to mainframe? Give them some
Uh,
suggestions and lessons to avoid.
yeah, the don't is don't always assume in mainframe. It's a very complex thing. Like, don't assume. Like, and another thing is always, I would say, always be willing to learn.
Mm,
You would always come across something new every day. Like, it
mm,
might not be every day, but at each point when you're working on different projects, you will always come across different issues. So always be willing and open to learn. And that way you're going to build your knowledge of what you're actually doing and what the project is all about and what you want to achieve. So I'll just say don't be discouraged. Don't assume. Like, don't assume from mainframe. Like, seek clarifications when it need be.
mhm.
So That's my advice. It's a very short one, but just take it and put it on your right palm, on your left palm. That's the way my people say. You put it on your left palm so you don't forget it. Just do
Mm,
some things in mainframe and always be willing to learn. And I'm sure you would enjoy it. You would definitely enjoy it.
thank you. Thank you for your wholehearted sharing. Is there anything that we did not ask, but you feel the need of sharing with our audience still, just to make sure
Uh,
we don't miss anything?
well, I don't think so. But I'll just tell also, I'll just tell everyone here on the call that I'm sure mainframe is something they will be proud they are doing by the time they start. That's just the thing about it.
Mm,
It might sound somehow probably I might be sounding sentimental, maybe because I've loved it now. But the thing is, at first you might seem very, very difficult to learn, but eventually it's something you're gonna love. Just embrace it, like embrace it.
thank you. Thank you for sharing. We really appreciate you talking to our audience and us today. And I'm sure for those of the audience who cannot make it online today, they will still share the same energy from the recording sessions on YouTube they can find. Thank you so much, Kolawole, for joining us today. Um,
Thank you.
and for our audience, do you have any questions for Kolawole? And since he's online, and you might want to take the opportunity to ask him questions that you might have listening to him sharing. So just feel free to unmute yourself to ask the question, or just drop that question in the chat box, and then we will read your question out and then seek for the answer you're looking for.
While we're still waiting for more questions, I have one. Most people who get into the IT field are mostly introverts, and they struggle with creating relationships. I had Kolawole mention that he relies a lot on his mentors and that they teach him a lot. So, how would you advise someone like that who's introverted to manage relationships with their mentors?
That's a very big question. But sincerely, I believe at some point we all have to, even the introverts that don't talk, right? People that are
Mm-hmm.
quiet to themselves, they just want to be with themselves. You just have to break that jinx, honestly. You have to look for a way around. And most importantly, what I would suggest for people like that is try to understand your environment. There will always be someone you can always you might not talk to the person. You have all other chat resources like all other tools that you could maybe like a channel rather that you could communicate with the person. Send a Teams chat, oh this, and I'm sure there's always one person for you that would even be willing to help. Like when I first joined my team, I want to cite myself as an example. I used to be like that. Like I don't want to talk when because I feel people on the team knows more than me, so I don't want to talk. It's not because I'm introvert, but at that period I would say I was introvert because I was very quiet on the team. But there was always one person that noticed, and I'm sure your other team members too, when you join a team like that, they will, if you're on the right team, hopefully, which I'm sure you're going to be, there will be someone that will notice things like that with you. So whenever we are having our DSU, and at the end of it all, I just accept everything. Oh, mm, mm. There was a day he just called me out. It was like, Kola, you can't just stay quiet all the time. I know you're feeling somehow, but you need to talk at some point. Even if you can talk, if you can't talk in the meeting, throw it in the chat. You need to say something. It was not like he now cited himself as an example that he was once like me. But at some point, he was caught up and he was into trouble all because of that. So he was like, at some point, I might be saying something you don't agree with. Because I don't talk does not mean you shouldn't make your own view, your points to be known. Even if you're not talking at that period, I have other channels where the team communicates. So just try to use those channels at your advantage, not at your disadvantage. Since you know you can't talk in a public place or probably talk in the meeting, use those other channels to your advantage.
Well said. Thank you. Actually, I also have a question for you based on Tiso's question. So, in your previous role, sounds like you deal with customers a lot. You help them solve questions. So, you are more in the people's position, right? You have a lot of interactions with people, and then when you transfer into mainframe, you're gonna deal with programs, programming languages, jobs. You have to deal with this. So how does that transition look like?
For me, honestly, it wasn't difficult because uh where my previous role where I had much of the experience was in the banking sector, where I had the opportunity to like solve customers' financial issue like having failed transactions and all of those. So I know how it feels like. So coming to mainframe the backend, and I'm now saying something similar. At some point this job didn't do what it's supposed to do, or probably trying to do some reverses on all of those. And where I was posted to is more like I wouldn't want to mention it, but it has to do with account, right? So when I see those things like, oh, this is how these things work on the back end. So it makes it more enjoyable for me. Like, oh, this is how customers' issues are being resolved. So it comes to this back end, and all of those, and the front end, I had the understanding of it before. Like, oh, when there are issues, customer walk up to you, they want them to be resolved. And for me now, seeing the actual resolution from the back end makes it more interesting to me.
Sounds like you are no longer the person in the middle, but rather when problem come in, you have the power to solve them.
Exactly.
I can only imagine that sense of achievement must be very strong to motivate you to keep going. All right, thank you. Any other questions from our audience? Okay. If not, Tiso, do you want to finish talking about what's new on Gitbook Chapter 2?
Um, I
All right,
think
thank you.
did we add new content to subchapter 3?
We have not. So I added
Okay.
I did the structure for chapter 2, and so basically now everybody could see that we have some structure in chapter 2, and you are more than welcome to add content under these chapters. And guess what? Actually, Kolawole could be our new contributor to the Gitbook project as well. So we're gonna eventually add you to this page as a contributor as well as our audience. If you have not been added to this page, we will add you manually. So when you see at any point any of these sub-chapters, like you feel there is something you can contribute, definitely go ahead, put something in. Like this is an open source project. We all putting in what we can to make this eventually like the encyclopedia for mainframe. So here, like Tiso introduced earlier, we have chapter 1 basically published, but we're still accepting structured content to be added to this chapter. And for chapter 2, we have some subchapters have more content than others. For example, the one TSOE, ISPF, actually TESOL added a lot of new content recently, so feel free to check it out. But if you move on to the third subchapter, datasets and how they work, we actually currently have no content in there. So if this is your strength and specialty of adding the content, please do not feel free, do not feel, do not hesitate to add content in there. All you need to do is to click on the button edit in change request, and then you'll be entering the editing mode. And from there, as you can see, you can add paragraphs, you can add links, you can add anything that you feel fitting for this topic under here. And when you are done, click merge. Merge is like the save button in the Word document. So you hit on merge, and then we will receive the notification that the new content has been added to the page. And then after the review of the core team, we will officially post your content on Gitbook, so everybody else coming in here could see your contribution, and your little photo icon will show up here, shows you are the contributor of this page. So we strongly recommend you building this content and community with us. And we're looking forward to see more content being added to the chapter 2. And we're gonna go ahead list out the structure for the upcoming chapters as well. So if you already work in a specific role in Mainframe, go ahead, come in here, add your role to this page, and let us know how you do your daily job, um, and how your daily job gonna help or gonna use or help with Mainframe. So yeah.
While
Um,
we're still on this, Nishi,
mhm,
I'd like to comment about AI on the mainframe. I kind of like heard you and Kolawole discussing AI on the mainframe.
mhm.
And, Kolawole didn't really trust AI to help him with the mainframe solutions. So it's AI on the mainframe is not a bad thing. We at IBM have a lot of tools that assist developers. Like Kolawole mentioned that he uses ADDI. It works well with the new code, the new tool that we have, Watson X Code Assistant for Z. If you are to modernize your COBOL applications, whether to just refactor your COBOL code to be more readable and understandable to the new recruits, or to convert it to Java, you can trust our AI to do that. But we wouldn't advise you to use it on mission critical applications. So it's you can try out those kind of tools. We also have more AI embedded in the softwares that we use on the mainframe for other software products that we have at IBM. I can't mention much of those, like I'm promoting IBM, but, I just wanted to let our attendees know that, generative AI on the mainframe is not such a bad thing. IBM is responsible in the way that it develops these tools. And yeah, feel free to exploit, and with a quick Google search, I guess more tools will show up that you can try out.
Thank you. Thank you for adding that, Tiso. Okay, since I did not see other questions coming from our attendees, I think we're gonna wrap up today's session. So thank you all very much for joining us today. And from our attendees, if you are willing to be our speakers, please reach out to me or Tiso or May. Any of us could work with you to get you prepared and we want to hear your story and your journey. How do you work, or how do you get into Mainframe? So we want to hear from you too. And with that said, thank you all again for attending, and we will see you next month. Just give you a quick heads up. So for next month, our regular student user group time will be October 2nd, but that's gonna conflict with the
IBMC Day.
thank you.
Yeah.
With IBMZ Day.
Yeah,
Thank you.
IBMZ Day will be on the 2nd of October.
Yes. So because of that, we're gonna postpone our panel 1 week later. So we're gonna see all of you on October 9th for our next speakers sharing session. And then we're gonna send out notifications when the date is closer.
Yes.
But thank you again for joining us and following us,
Just
and we look forward to interact with you. Go ahead, sorry.
yeah, a point of correction. It won't be on the 2nd, it will be on the 1st.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty. Thank you all. Goodbye.
Bye.